Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Welcome to Voice of the Sea.
This time on Voice of the Sea, we catch up with do-it-yourself visionary and engineer Tony Liserre to see what aquaponics can look like in your front yard. Tony created a home aquaponics system complete with wind turbines he designed himself. Hi, Tony.
Hi, nice to meet you.
How you doing?
Yeah, this is my aquaponics. I grow everything we can here. Tomatoes, strawberries, all the different herbs, some broccoli, some arugula, lettuces. And this was our lawn. And that lawn used to take up water and we used to mow it. And now it feeds us.
So Bob, I know that you studied aquaculture for a living, and I want to talk a little bit about how is this home aquaponics system different than large-scale commercial aquaculture?
That's a good question. Aquaculture, the classic definition of aquaculture is, the growing of plants and animals under a controlled environment. And the aquaponics is, it can be scaled up to large commercial operations, and you'll see when you visit Maui Aquaponics, Ed Sichon's place, this is a larger commercial operation, to small backyard operations where people, or front yard operations, depending on where you put it, where people can grow their own food for home consumption. And the aquaponics is a combination of aquaculture, of course, growing fish predominantly. Some people do other animals like prawns, and also hydroponics, which is growing plants in a soilless environment. How I got involved in this was working in a collaborative effort with a colleague from University of Arizona, and we set up some small, got some grant monies from USDA and also from Maui County to set up small backyard operations for working Native Hawaiian families, which the rationale was for them to supplement their income, put food on the table, because living in Hawaii, food costs and energy costs are some of the highest expenses that we pay here. And so if they could do something like that, they could lower their own food costs.
And what are the major issues on this small scale that people have to deal with? I think sometimes if it's a big system, you got to be worrying about so many things on a large scale, but sometimes in a small system, it can break down easier, it would seem to me. Is that true?
Not necessarily. If it's constructed well and the people are trained in how to do aquaponics, there's always a learning curve in everything you do. People that are beginning, whether it's aquaculture production or aquaponics. So there is a learning curve. Sometimes you'll kill some animals, even tilapia, and I've killed many in my day. So it's just a matter of being persistent and learning what the basics are. And like I tell everyone, this, whether it's aquaculture or aquaponics, it's not rocket science. There's some basic premises. And if it was rocket science, I wouldn't be doing it.
All right.
So, Tony, from your perspective, what were the difficult things about setting up your system?
Getting my wife's permission. That was the most difficult part. She asked me to please draw it, so I did a computer model of it. Once she met with her approval, I was able to remove the grass from the front yard and continue. But the mechanical part came in easy to me. Again, I wasn't a farmer. I have no farming experience, so that part is difficult for me. And I'm learning very much so every day. The fish, I was lucky enough that the fish were very hardy when I got them and I didn't lose any. But I'm still learning what can be grown and what can't be grown and the conditions. And things I'm learning now is that temperature is involved, which I never thought of. Living in Maui, it's always 80 degrees, but the water temperature is important. Ammonia, I didn't know what that was. I thought you clean things with it and all the different things. And so now I learned that it's very much it's a balance.
Yeah.
It's like a dance, and once you realize that you can't get the plants perfectly happy and you can't get the fish perfectly happy, once you come in and accept that, you're going to be good at it, and you find a happy balance.
So, Bob, can I ask you then, what is this thing called ammonia that we've been talking about today?
Ammonia is what fish excrete as a waste product, and it's a nitrogen compound. It can be toxic to the fish if it's built up in the system. So it's an ideal kind of combination by utilizing the plants to remove the nitrogen compounds. And there's a nitrogen cycle that takes place with a couple different kinds of bacteria that are in the water. And once they're built up to a certain level, they can break down that ammonia, utilize that ammonia, convert it to nitrite, which is also toxic to fish. And that nitrite is converted to nitrates, which are utilized by the plants as a fertilizer.
So it's somewhat similar to, you hear about nitrogen fixation in land agriculture.
Sure.
Is that a similar thing that we're dealing with here?
Yeah. So there's no fertilizers added, and that's the beauty.
Wow.
So this is completely, if you can put an organic food source into the fish, then it's an organic system. Once the water, which we use city water, once that water has been depleted of the chlorine that initially is in it, the water then is very clean and non-toxic to the fish and the plants.
So did you have to treat the water to start with?
I filled the tank and I aerated the tank for 2 weeks before I put a fish in. Then I had a test fish, and we called him, he was like our crash dummy, and he's still alive and well, I might say. But yeah, so we put him in there and we watched to see his health, and he did well.
So by aerating, you're blowing air into the water, and that allows the chlorine to
Yeah, it
dissolve.
dissipates. It dissipates. Yeah, it normally doesn't take that long, but we wanted to make sure. But I put very little water back into that system. So this is something that can be done in very dry conditions, low water conditions.
That's what's so interesting to me. I didn't realize that it was going to be a closed system.
Yeah, it's closed, and very little. The way I have mine set up is very little evaporation, because very little sun is hitting the actual water itself. And I would say that the 10% that is the average evaporation for an aquaponics system, I'm probably down around 2%.
We talked to the tilapia. They have these attributes. They can survive in a large range of conditions. The freshwater prawns, do they have similar attributes?
The macrobrachium are a little bit more delicate to raise. They're territorial for one thing, so you can't raise them in high densities. And they have differential growth rates. You'll get bull males and smaller males and then females. So some people have played around with it in aquaponics operations, but I usually suggest to stick strictly with fish.
I know you've also, Bob, gone to places like American Samoa and helped them to set up small-scale aquaponics systems. Can you talk a little bit about those and how it might compare to what we see here at Tony's house?
Well, we didn't set up any private systems per se, but I worked with colleagues down there at American Samoa Community College, and we set up a demonstration facility at the community college, and then held a workshop on aquaponics. So basically introducing American Samoan citizens to the concept of aquaponics. And I think they have built a number of systems with the private systems so far.
And what are some of the challenges that people there faced in setting those up?
That's a good question. There's a couple big challenges. One is materials. Everything's so expensive down there, and to get it shipped down there. And the other big challenge for American Samoa is feed costs. They're trying to build a small feed production facility at the community college so the farmers can produce their own feeds, because again, the import costs of bringing commercial pellets down there is just exorbitant.
And then the flip side of that is, so what are some of the successes and what has it done for the community in terms of being able to have this successful aquaponics?
In American Samoa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's self-sufficiency and having some pride in growing your own food. A lot of people have their own home gardens, and fish is an important part of their diet down there. And being able to grow their own fish, in their backyard, I think is important to them.
So sometimes in aquaculture, if we're growing fish, I know that one of the issues isn't releasing toxins or even releasing the fish out into the wild, but the systems you guys have are self-contained.
They're closed.
They're closed. And so what are the benefits of that?
Benefits of a closed system is, like you mentioned, that the animals won't accidentally be released to the wild. If you've got systems or commercial systems located next to streams, and like open pond systems, theoretically birds can come catch fish and accidentally release them somewhere else. But as far as aquaponics, the combination of aquaculture and hydroponics, I think it is my understanding that it developed in the late 70s by a gentleman named Barnaby Watton, who I happen to know from graduate school. He was finishing up when I started at Auburn, but he was working at the University of Virgin Islands with Dr. Jim Ricosi, and after he left to do his undergraduate work, Jim had started to work with aquaponics and develop some of the systems that he finally developed into a larger commercial scale operation. And he's since recently retired, and one of his colleagues has taken over at University of Virgin Islands.
So how did you personally get interested in aquaculture and aquaponics?
Aquaculture, well, I grew up in Hawaii, and I was kind of a Kolohe kid, so my mom always sent me to summer school. So one summer, I think it was between 4th and 5th grade, I took a marine biology class and went out to Coconut Island on a field trip, because I always loved field trips and movies. So I went out to Coconut Island. I thought, this is just a cool place to work. They had sharks, they had marine fish, cages of fish and corals, and I just thought it was the coolest place. And so when I finally started school as an undergraduate at the University of Hawaii, I wanted to specialize in marine biology, and my advisor, I came to find out that it's relatively challenging to get a job in marine biology. The only two marine biologists I knew was my advisor and Jacques Cousteau. And so eventually I started taking some other marine science classes, and they offered aquaculture classes, and I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. I can be around water and do science at the same time, and hopefully be employed, eventually.
So where are you going from here? Like, do you have any grand plans, or?
Stay employed. Food on the table.
He wants to mooch off my basil plants. I think that's where he's going from here.
Keep my kids in the lifestyle they're growing accustomed.
Putting food not only on your table, but on Tony's table and a lot of other people's tables besides.
Yeah, the key is to get people realizing that they can do this in their own house, in their own environment. Because if the problem with globalization and all this kind of stuff is that we're getting our bananas from Ecuador and we grow them here in Maui. It's crazy. And how can that possibly be cost effective or even intelligent? And so if we can grow our own food here, and the average person can do it without backbreaking labor. I spend 5 minutes out there a day. It's not a big deal. So if we can get people interested, and I ask as many people as who want to walk through it, and I'll take time to explain it to them, because I think it's important that they can do it. And once they figure that hey, I have the power to do it, then they empower themselves, and getting to the children is the key. Because if they come at home and they say, Mommy, look what I learned, and then, you put the parents on the spot a little bit.
Okay, so what's like the absolute smallest system you think I could
You can
build
do a
successfully?
55-gallon barrel.
You could do a 10-gallon aquarium,
Yeah.
a small hobby system inside your house, with 2 or 3 fish and 10 or 12 plants of herbs,
Yeah.
all the way up to a
Oh, yeah.
large
You
commercial
could definitely
operation.
do herbs on
Yeah.
a small scale like that.
And what kind of fish? I wouldn't necessarily need a tilapia in it.
No, you
Could be any.
ornamental fish,
Yeah.
goldfish,
Yeah.
anything.
You lose the ability to harvest the other side, if that's your intent. But unless you like goldfish, some college kids do. But yeah. No, I know it can be done. I set out to prove it can be done, and I think the proof is out there.
Turn your love of the ocean into a lifelong career. Join NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as we unlock the secrets in the deep oceans, track rapidly moving storms, model climate trends, protect and preserve our marine resources, and so much more. It's all in a day's work at NOAA. Find a career that makes a world of difference, enriching life through science, service, and stewardship. NOAA.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG has been providing quality educational programs and services for over 40 years, serving students, teachers, parents, educators, and experts around the world and here in Hawaii. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, improving schools, improving education. CRDG.
The University of Hawaii's Sea Grant College Program, focused on Hawaii's coasts and its communities through sustainable development, safe seafood supply, sustainable coastal tourism, hazard resilience, and healthy coastal ecosystems. Hawaii's Sea Grant.
Exploring Our Fluid Earth is a dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group, teaching ocean science concepts through the disciplines of physics, chemistry, biology, and ecology. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now available freely online. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.